Welcome to the Wonderful Woman podcast with Susan Stewart. I hope everyone is listening, and I would love you to share this far and wide and hit the subscribe button. That would be so helpful. Today, Aimee Stewart is with me. Aimee is a soul-led life coach, therapist, and compassionate mentor. Aimee gained 11 years experience within the mental health profession, within a multitude of roles in both adult and children's mental health services. She left to go full-time into her soul-aligned business in the summer of 2021. Aimee blends science and spirituality to enable people to heal from emotional wounds and reach their full potential in terms of health, wealth, happiness, and abundance. She works with all age groups, from children who are struggling emotionally and mentally to adults who would like to have a huge transformation in their lives in terms of relationships, career, business, health, happiness, peace, and abundance. Aimee's mission in life is to empower people to become who they were born to be, so that they can heal past pains that may be blocking them from experiencing joy at all levels. What a beautiful mission statement, Aimee, and what a wonderful way to work. I know you've also launched and are training practitioners in your own therapy as well. Maybe you could explain that to us.
Yeah, so the Infinite Switch is a therapeutic technique that I have developed, which basically blends all of the training that I've had over the last decade plus and allows people to get to the root of what has been holding them back in their lives. So yeah, I have my first cohort of therapists training in this technique that's underpinned by NLP, cognitive behavioral therapy, and also mindfulness. And they basically take their clients on a journey of healing in a 1.5 hour session that ripple effects out the way into their lives, into their families, into their communities. And it's a really profound, simple but profound technique.
Oh, that sounds, well, I know it is wonderful because I have had an Infinite Switch session with you that is life-changing. So without further ado, though, we're not really talking about work today. We're talking about you and your life. And this season on the Wonderful Women podcast, we have got one question that I have been giving to everyone, all the women that are going to be coming on. And the question is to think about right now is a life event or a life challenge that set you on a different trajectory or life path that you didn't expect to go on. So do you have one of those, Aimee?
I've got a few. And the one that I'm coming to was in 2018. I had been given the opportunity through work to go back to university. And I was a new mum. My little girl, Mimi, who is also your granddaughter, my daughter.
Yeah, I haven't said that. Aimee is also my daughter.
So she was 1.5 or not 1.5, just over 1. And this opportunity at work had presented itself to me. Now, to be totally honest, I wanted to be working less hours. So the idea of adding another thing into my life and my professional life and away from my little girl seemed counterintuitive at the time when I was given the opportunity. However, I mulled it over. I cried. I thought about it long and hard. And at this point, my little girl was probably about 13 months old and I'd never left her. She was exclusively breastfed. She wouldn't take a bottle. even going to work for 30 hours a week was tough. And I worked locally to where she was being looked after. So I would go home on my lunch break and feed her. And I was given the freedom to do that because I ran my own diary, and I was able to take some time out to do that and just work at other times. So the idea of being in a completely different city once a month, and this course actually required me to go away for 4 days at a time, twice at the beginning of it. The idea of leaving her for 4 days just filled me with utter dread, if I'm being honest, especially given that she wouldn't take a bottle. Anyway, after much deliberation and consideration, I realised that it was the thing that was going to propel me forwards for the both of us. And actually leaving her was going to be a gift to me and to her. And it felt like it was justified. I would be justified to leave her because I would be bettering myself for the both of us.
Beautiful. And
yeah.
I remember this well, actually. So what was it? So what was the university course that you were going to do?
Yeah, so it was in cognitive behavioural therapy with children and young people. And it was prior to giving birth and having Mimi, that was what I wanted to do. So, you know, it had been in my mind and in my heart for a good few years prior to having Mimi. And actually, Mimi was an unexpected gift from the universe. I have to say, she came to me halfway, well, first part way through a mindfulness qualification that I was doing, and that changed the trajectory of my life into motherhood as well. So anyway, this was the opportunity. It came back around. Mimi was just over a year old, and it was cognitive behavioural therapy, and it felt like my soul was taking me back towards therapy with people, and that's what I wanted to be doing. My undergraduate degree had been in mental health nursing, and I'd managed to get a promotion and work in a therapeutic and training role within education, and I was working within the schools, and I loved that job. However, I'd always seen myself working therapeutically with people, and this was my ticket to get there. And also to give me more freedom in the future, to be the mum that picked Mimi up from school and dropped her off and things like that, and allowed myself to work less in the holidays and all of those freedom things that you can't put a price on. So I did it. I actually stopped breastfeeding 2 months before she was 2. I left her with you, with my lovely mum, and also my best friend Isla, that is her guide parent, an alternative to a godmum. She's her guide mum. And both of you helped me to enable me to go down to Edinburgh for those 2 4-day spells, and also once a month, every month for a year. So I did that, and actually the course was meant to be 2 years. So I was going to be progressing and finishing my master's. However, within the service that I was working in, 9 people left whilst I was doing this course, which was unpredictable. No one could have predicted that that was going to happen. So I, due to the lack of capacity within the service, was not allowed or given the permission to go on and study for the 2nd year or the 3rd year of my master's, because I already had a year in mindfulness. So, much to my disappointment, I had to come out of the course, and I got merit in the 1st year, and that really did require a lot of me with a young child, with a 2-year-old. I had to write essays into the small hours of the morning, juggling working 30 hours a week, being a single mum, and all of that. So what did that lead me to, that dropping out of the programme? I then decided, I had a defining moment at the park one day where I felt like it hadn't have been worth it. Leaving her wasn't worth it. I was just about to go on my final day of study, and I realised that I wasn't going to be able to go on to the 2nd year. And Mimi was playing in the park and I was sitting on a bench, and I just felt tears running down, uncontrollable, like I couldn't hold them back. And that's not normal for me. I'm usually quite happy and bubbly, and life's, I find a way to live life that's quite easy. But this felt really hard, and it felt like a roadblock, and it felt like all of my hard work had not been worth it. So what did I do? I actually signed up with a life coach at that point, who is still in my life now and gives me business coaching now. And I invested in myself. That initial program was £650, and I did a payment plan because prior to when I had Mimi, I felt unjustified to spend money on myself. Yeah. And this £650 was a lot of money for me at that point. And I remember feeling a bit like, oh, this is selfish, me doing this, but I needed to do something to deal with the pain that I was feeling. Yeah. And I don't think it was just the pain of not being able to progress on to the second year. I think there was a lot of pain in me forgetting who I was, and I needed to remember who I was again. And that's what it did for me. So 3 months later, after signing up with this beautiful gift of a woman, Daryl Sutherland is her name, and you can find her online as well. She's incredible.
She will be on the podcast as well in a few weeks' time. She's amazing.
That's amazing. She really is a lighthouse of, human expression of a lighthouse. And she lit me up. She made me remember who I was. And what she brought me home to was Born to Be. I had this incredible idea. I'd been on retreat with Dr. David Hamilton when I was, prior to being a child and adolescent mental health nurse, I had actually been a community psychiatric nurse. And David Hamilton was running a retreat in Calendar for health professionals and healers, spiritual healers, called Integrating Sciences. And on that retreat, and a wee bit prior to the retreat, you and I had been talking about what my mission was really in life. And it was that. So it was about this idea that we are all born to be. And at that point, it was born to be happy. And that idea has evolved for me now, and that we don't always have to be happy. In fact, some of this journey is ugly and it's sad and it's all of the emotions. And that's okay. Healing is not linear. We don't start at A and get to B. We usually go round in a convoluted pattern to get to where we are born to be.
Absolutely.
So this 5 days of a retreat allowed me to think about how I was going to blend science and spirituality and bring my message out into the world. And at the end of the 5 days, I gave a 20-minute presentation of why we are all born to be, at that point, happy. And now it is about becoming who we were here born to be, who we were born to be. So I had that revelation on that 5-day retreat, connected with some incredible people, a lot of which I am still in contact with, healers, health professionals, beautiful, special people. And I went back to work on the Monday and I shelved it. Forgot about it. 2 years later, had fallen pregnant with Mimi, did a mindfulness qualification postgrad certificate, and here I am a few years on, having completed 1 year of a cognitive behavioural therapy course as well. So then I did this life coaching thing, and I was like, I've got to get Born to Be out into the world. So it was December 2019, and I decided to create an 8-week in-person programme that I was going to run in the Spectrum Centre in Inverness. And I put it out onto the internet, and incredibly, 18 people signed up.
Amazing.
So I couldn't believe it. I was so happy. And because I wasn't going to be spending this extra time studying, I had the time to put in to this. And you also offered to look after Mimi once a week for me so that I could deliver this program. And there was a mixture of, there was a head teacher on the program, there was colleagues on the program, there were people I'd never heard of before, I'd never met before, that came along and connected. And it was a deeply healing program where they learned mindfulness, they learned how to upgrade their beliefs, they learned how to connect with themselves, they learned the different personality types and how to work their relationships. And there was an amazing ripple effect of healing throughout the group. Then COVID hit in March.
It did.
And our lives went into, this needing to stay at home, to stay safe. And I realised that I couldn't stop my purpose. I had to keep on going. So I continued to work in my career. And I basically transferred this in-person program. I lengthened it a little bit and I put it online and all over Zoom.
Amazing.
So yeah, do you have anything? I realise I've talked a lot. So do you
No,
have
I
anything?
love you talk. This is your story, and I think you're determined. I think that point, I can remember that point really well. I was devastated for you. As a mother, I was devastated because I knew the work that you'd put in. I was so proud of you and getting a merit, and for you to be told before you'd finished that year that you wouldn't be able to progress the next year because people had left the service that you were working on. So it was nothing to do with your ability. It was a reflection, sadly, and I'm going to say it because I'm allowed to say it, of the NHS, and I know that, and I know it was the schools you were working in, but you were still in the nursing profession, in the therapy profession, headed up by a department that would at one point have been the NHS. And it was so wrong. What is the point? But you do have that first year and with a merit, and that is amazing. I know that the work that you do, CBT is threaded through it, as well as your other skills, and your knowledge is amazing. And I think it definitely contributed to you leaving the service. It was a big contributor.
Yeah.
But do you want to go on and just finish the story? Because
yes,
and because you did leave in the end. What gave you the strength to leave and go full-time into your business?
So it's amazing how in hindsight you realise why all these little dots happened, all these significant roadblocks, all these times where you felt that life was blocking you, and the crying on a park bench and feeling like nothing I did was good enough, and feeling like life was an uphill battle, really. That's how I felt. I felt like, all this effort and I'm getting nowhere. That's what I felt.
Yeah.
But actually, in hindsight, I was getting to where I needed to be in order to become who I was born to be.
Yes.
So I then, with my business, it started to take off. I had my first online program, which only had 2 sign-ups, so it wasn't amazingly successful. I actually launched it the week before lockdown, but I was gifted these 2 beautiful women that I worked with for the first three months of lockdown, and I'm still in touch with them, and they were incredible, and they gave me the confidence to keep going.
Amazing.
And I then launched again, had 10 sign-ups then, and everything continued to grow. But I was waiting for the perfect time to leave. Once I had a certain amount of money in the bank, and there were seeds of doubt coming up in my inner dialogue of, it's selfish to follow your heart, and you're a single parent, you can't do this, you need security. I've then developed this great trust in the universe that I know I'm being held, I know I'm being provided for, and time again in my business, it's proven to me that I am held.
Yeah.
So waiting for the perfect time, and the whispers of my soul to leave my career were becoming loud shouts. And I was getting more disillusioned with the system as time went on. COVID lent itself to less resources, less capacity, more referrals. We were asked to do more with nothing extra given to us. So it was Friday the 8th of January. My little girl, Mimi, was 4. She was still in childcare in nursery, and she was only in on a half day on a Friday. So I decided to go for a walk on Friday afternoon after getting her. I'd had a really nice morning. I'd gone to Costa with my journals, and I'd been journaling on my heart's desires and what I wanted to bring forth into the world. And I went and collected her from nursery and went up to Maryborough Woods, which is a local forest, about a half an hour away from where I live. Picked up the dogs and taken them. And it was bitterly cold that day. In hindsight, I shouldn't have been walking. I will say there were more restrictions in place. So although I'd been to Costa, things were closing early. The only thing that we really could do was go for a walk. Things like soft play and, things that you do in the winter with your children weren't open. Yeah. So there really was only a walk to do. That's why we were walking. Thinking back, I shouldn't have really been out for a walk because it was so cold. And we went through the forest. We were about half an hour in, and there was ice on the pathway, but we had just stepped. Oh, finer detail that's really important is Mimi's legs were tired, and she'd asked for a piggyback just prior to that. And I, not abnormal for me to give Mimi a piggyback. So she jumped on, got up. I'm very physically fit. I, for example, had run the half marathon in March of 2020, just before, on International Women's Day, actually, just before lockdown. And, have always been athletic and fit. I'm tall, I'm slim, and I'm strong.
You are.
So I stepped out into this forest clearing, and what I hadn't realised, there was a scattering of snow, but there had been 3 inches of compacted ice underneath the snow, and I just went slipping. And I had Mimi on my back, and I jerked my body in a way that would allow her to fall gracefully and not impact her. And I felt as I was going down, my leg snapped, basically. So luckily, with everything that I teach, everything I embody, everything I'd learned, I was able to utilize these techniques of staying calm. I managed to phone the ambulance and let them know what had happened. I didn't realize that my leg had broken, to be honest. I knew that something was deeply wrong. I couldn't get up or move my leg in any way. I thought that it might have been a knee dislocation. I just knew that I'd really injured myself. So the call to the ambulance was quite frustrating because they were trying to get me to fully explain exactly where I was in the forest, and I couldn't. And I was trying to get them to see if they could track my phone, and they couldn't.
It's crazy that they can't track phones.
I know.
Isn't it? Anyway.
Then I phoned you.
I know. That phone call, I'll never forget it. It sort of left me, I say to you now, please, if you phone me, Aimee, leave a message. I've got PTSD now since that day. However, that was my mummy thing.
Yeah. Luckily,
you were a lot more than I did.
Yeah. You were in Inverness, and that wasn't too far away. If it had been Ardesseir, you would have been another 20 minutes, but you got there within 25 minutes, I think. Yeah. I also phoned my best friend, Isla, the guide mum of Mimi, who is a social worker and great in a crisis. And she came to the scene of the accident. She arrived first, then the paramedics. A walker by had gone to the main road to flag down the ambulance, and she'd flagged it down, and it actually wasn't my ambulance she'd flagged down, and it had another patient in it. But they came, gave me blankets, because it was -10 that day.
Incredible.
So, and I was wearing a cardigan.
I know, Aimee.
So they came to give me morphine and wrap me in blankets, which they did, and they waited for my ambulance, and they did a handover. You then arrived, and luckily Mimi knows Isla so well. Isla kept her calm. Then you came quickly and just took Mimi away.
It was so difficult actually leaving you lying there. I took Mimi and the dogs, and I had to leave you with Isla and the paramedics. However,
then I ended up in hospital and got my x-ray. It confirmed there was a femur fracture. My leg had snapped. The knee had been dislocated as well. So in the forest, they got me to straighten my leg and said that the knee would just click in back into place, which it didn't happen. So yeah, they had to get GPs out to the scene, give me a spinal block. Then I got taken into hospital after 3 hours on the ice, hypothermic. It was horrific, massive trauma that really, it's the closest to death I've ever been in my life. And it was a defining moment. It was a moment of, I'm not invincible.
yes,
I've got to follow my heart. And that life is happening now. It's not happening in 2 months' time. It's not happening 5 years ago. It's happening now, and you have to make the most of it, because tomorrow you could die. That's what it really taught me.
Absolutely. So this is, it is an absolute thread on from the you're not doing your second year of your CBT masters. However, it's very much a life event and a defining moment that took you on a totally different trajectory, and I think gave you the confidence, I would say, to go, right, what happened next?
It was a fuck it moment.
Yeah.
Fuck it. It's now or never. I can either sell my soul to my career and deplete myself and give beyond my capacity, or I hand my notice in, I follow my heart, and I live my purpose.
Amazing.
And that's what I did. So I didn't actually have sick leave, to be totally honest. I lay in bed with my MacBook and I wrote my program, and a new program. I was also working with a hypnotherapist at the time, and I did some deep inner work and healing that really did heal parts of my childhood that I'd never dealt with. And that propelled me into my business in a way that I had never been able to show up. I started to speak my absolute truth and not give a damn what people were thinking about me.
Yeah.
I stopped living for the approval of others, and I gave myself the approval beyond anyone.
Amazing. So
then in that first launch, by March, I'd made 10 grand in my business.
Still learning how to walk again, because you literally had to learn how to walk again.
Yeah, I was going to physio every week. I was walking with a stick for 6 months at least, in fact, 8 months. I was still the single mum. Yeah. I was still taking Mimi back and forth to nursery, and to you and to other people that look after her through the week. And I was healing emotionally, physically, spiritually, to the point where I was like, yeah, I am living my soul purpose now. And that's what I have been doing ever since.
So if we fast forward to now, what was your biggest lesson from all of this, Aimee?
It's to recognize that when it feels like life is falling apart, it's actually coming together in ways that you can only dream of, only imagine. So when you are having these moments where you feel empty or lost, or like people, life, the universe aren't getting it, aren't getting you, aren't getting the effort, that actually there's a bigger plan at play. And unfortunately, we can't live life moving forwards. We don't know what's around the corner. But after these events happen, you look back and you go, that had to happen to make that happen.
Yeah.
That had to make that happen. And also, this moment of my leg breaking and not only my leg breaking, it wasn't like I was inside in a cozy building. It was outside. I was on the ice for 3 hours. It was, life and death, really.
It actually was, because if that shattered bone had split your femoral artery, you die. You actually die. That life is so fragile.
And that's what it taught me. And, that lesson of following your heart, follow your heart. And there's never going to be a perfect time for anything, ever.
No.
So, do things before you're ready to do them. Absolutely. And then, so threading that through to my business now, where am I at now? Well, yes, I'm a life coach still. However, I coach people who have a soul mission. So people who have this yearning within them, an idea, maybe it's a book, maybe it's maybe it is a coaching business. Maybe it's a organization they want to create, like a third sector agency or something that's big within them.
Yeah.
I now allow them to birth that idea and become who it is they were born to be. So I've gone from being a coach of people to find their purpose, and now I am a coach that allows people to bring their purpose out into the world.
And isn't that such a beautiful gift? And I know you are so good at it. You transform people's lives every day. And I couldn't be prouder of you. You are the most amazing woman. You are a wonderful woman. And you're an incredible daughter. And you gave me the most beautiful granddaughter as well. So, Aimee, this has been amazing. Thank you. We don't very often get a chance to just sit and chat, do we?
No. We're usually juggling Mimi, 5-year-olds in between us and life.
Exactly, and going and doing family things. And then, so this has been lovely. It's been quite personal. I felt, and I've really enjoyed, listening to this and having this chat. And I know you'll come back on the podcast in the future, but this is season 1. I thank you so much for being with me, and I hope everyone else has enjoyed it. Take care.